Hi, my name is Tommy Campbell, and this week's assignment is to discuss the four leadership theories and briefly go into each one. And I'm going to go to what I consider my least favorite to my most favorite. Um, my least favorite is the substitute theory, and substitute for leadership theory states that there's different situational factors that can enhance, neutralize, or substitute for leader behaviors. Now, I think a leader makes all the difference in the world. But Stephen Kerr and John Hermier thought that if you could substitute, there's three areas in which some examples of substitutes could happen, and the characteristics of the characteristics of the subordinate, like the subordinate ability, what's their capacity, what are they capable of, subordinate's professional orientation, if they're super specialized, do they really need a leader to push them? The characteristics of the task. If the characteristics of the task are unambiguous, routine task where there's not a lot of direction needed, subordinates can go about and do their thing without a lot of direction. Tasks to provide its own feedback, like computer programming, for instance. A task that intrinsically enables that person to want to do it and they're self-motivated, which is my case here. We don't have a very effective leader, in my opinion, and I know what I do is very important with veterans and helping them get their post-secondary education. So whether or not I'm told what to do or when to do or how to do, I'm going to make sure it happens. The characteristics of an organization is one of those substitute factors. If you have a cohesive work group, a tight-knit group, the organizational formation is clear, or if you have self-managed work teams that work pretty well together. Neutralizers might be something that the subordinates are indifferent to what the outcomes are. They could care less what's going on. The characteristics of the organization is whether or not subordinates are rewarded is not the leader's decision. It's like, what can you do for me? That type of thing. And examples of enhancers, which is a third category I found in my research, it's not in the book. The characteristics of subordinates are having more experience than a leader that can enhance the position. The characteristics of the task is it's non-routine, or the organization having group norms that encourage that participation. Everybody's kind of bought into that. The next one is the leadership continuum, which goes from one extreme to another. And it goes from where the manager makes all the decisions to where it's very, very autocratic and authoritarian, to just the other end where it's very laissez-faire, democratic, and all the decisions are left up to the subordinates. And there are 5 ranges in between. The continuum talks about the forces related to the manager or leader, and it talks about the things that might enhance that leader's capacity to do his work in this regard. Is before you choose what point, you got to see what that leader's personality is, what their experience, and what their values or ideals are. The forces related to the subordinates include the readiness of the subordinates to assume that responsibility. Can they do it or can they not do it? Or are they willing to even take on that responsibility of the decision making? And the forces related to the situation has to do with the organization's size, the style, the nature of the work group, the group's effectiveness, and the nature of the problem itself could be part of it. And time is also a big consideration in that. The next theory is Fiedler's contingency model. Whenever you look at this, Fiedler was an Austrian-born guy that focused on industrial and organizational psychology, and his research really focused around that. But this model states that there's no one best style, and instead the leader's effectiveness is based upon the situation. Well, it's not, to me, as situational as maybe the path goal leadership style, but this one, having the word contingency in it, basically means, the contingency means it depends. What does it depend on? And Fiedler postulates that it's about working with the people, and he has this LPC scale, this least preferred coworker scale, and then there's about 13 to 15 different categories that you check, and you see where you fall into that. But whenever you start considering where you are in this leadership model, it really goes from, are you relationship oriented or are you product oriented? And where there's not a lot of flexibility in that. Either you're going to be focused on the product or you're going to be focused on the people. The situational the favorableness of that particular situation depends on three distinct factors. The leader-member relations, it's the trust and confidence that your team has in you. The task structure, is it clear, is it defined, or is it vague or unstructured? The leader's positional power, how much power does that leader really have to push that group in one direction or another? The last one that I think I subscribe to most is the path goal theory of leadership, and this is based on the House and Mitchell's research in the 70s, and they assume that a leader complements his employees and works with them in certain ways. What I really like about this, it's a model that's you select that leadership style if it's needed to be directive, supportive, achievement-based, or if you need to be more participative. And the big thing about this, it's very, very flexible. You can take this leadership style, and if you have some clear guidelines, that the leader, if they're going to be very directive, they're going to be very directive. They're going to tell you what it is you need to do, when, how, and what, and it's best suited for like low experience environments, and you might be on a short timeline to get something done. The supportive style may be more focused on if you have employees that are usually pretty motivated and do a good job, but there may be a supportive role needed from the leader. They may have a personal problem you need to investigate and see what's going on. The achievement-oriented is about challenges. It's about goal-oriented. What's the best thing for me to do? How can I best participate in this for the group? The participative leadership, can I work right alongside with my people? And oftentimes this is one of the best things to do, but you have to have a pretty experienced crew to do that and a lot of trust before your followers will allow you to do that. Of these, I believe the one that's the best for our organization would be the path goal leadership. In our organization, we get people with different varied levels of experience relative to the military. Currently, I'm the only one in here with active duty experience in our organization, and that's a big factor when you're dealing with veterans. It also, with this theory, whether you're an extrovert or introvert makes a difference. If you, what abilities or inabilities you have to be independent and take on tasks. So I feel that this is the best thing for our organization.